During the year of 1357, Tsongkhapa was born in the Songkha region of the Amdo province. Prior to the birth of their son, Tsongkhapa's parents reported several strange dreams involving the Buddha of Compassion. While these incidents could easily be dismissed as parental enthusiasm, other mystical occurrences seem to affirm the implicit aptitude as a teacher and student of Buddhism within this young child. A sandalwood tree reportedly grew rapidly from the spot where his umbilical cord fell. Once the tree matured, each leaf revealed a natural resemblance to the Buddha Sinayata. The day after Tsongkhapa's birth, a prominent disciple of Chodre Dandra Rinchen, the Lama who was to become Tsongkhapa's teacher throughout his youth, arrived at his house with gifts, a statue, and a letter. These mystical components to his birth suggested to many that Tsongkhapa's birth had fulfilled a prophecy previously made by Padmasambhava. A young master of Buddhist teachings will be born in a region to the east. Tsongkhapa began studying at the age of 2 and was ordinated by the 4th Karmapa at age 3. His early studies mostly focused around the memorization of various sutras regarding topics relating to Buddhism. This was due to his master, Chodre Dandra Rinchen's belief that one must first master the sutras before they could truly benefit from the practice of Buddhism. By age 7, Tsongkhapa could recite over 80 Buddhist texts from memory. In recognition of his studious abilities, Tsongkhapa received special novice vows as well as the name Lobsang Drakpa. This event was significant because Lobsang Drakpa was the name which Padmasambhava had predicted the young master would have. Though the exact date is unknown, Tsongkhapa is believed to have left the tutelage of Chodre Dandra Rinchen around age 15, to begin a journey to study in all existing traditions of Buddhist teachings. He received teachings on the mind of the enlightened and the Great Seal from Chenga Chogi Gilpo. Tsongkhapa then traveled to Drikung, where Kanchuk Kayab taught him the medical treatises. Next, Tsongkhapa traveled to Nathang Diwakan to study the ornaments for clear realization and the perfection of wisdom. While at this location, Tsongkhapa honed his abilities to construct and deliver a persuasive argument, and developed a reputation as a skilled debater of Buddhist teachings. After receiving these teachings, Tsongkhapa journeyed to Sakya to learn from the masters of the Sakya sect, the most prominent Buddhist sect at the time of his studies. At Sakya, Tsongkhapa studied an expansive curriculum in the Sakya tradition. His topics of study included monastic discipline, phenomenology, valid cognition, the middle way, and the 6 doctrines of Naropa. After he studied with the Sakya sage Randawa, the sage was so impressed with Tsongkhapa's skill that he admitted he was able to learn from his student. Tsongkhapa then decided to go on several meditational retreats designed to increase his abilities of meditation. Tsongkhapa went on many retreats and frequently reported experiences of meditational deities. His most prominent retreat was a 4-year excursion at Wolka Chowang. Accompanied by 4 close disciples, Tsongkhapa performed millions of prostrations, mandala offerings, and other forms of purification ritual. The intense diligence and devotion Tsongkhapa exhibited during this retreat is indicated through indentations that still remain in the stone floor at the site of the meditation. After completing this retreat, Tsongkhapa was reportedly capable of direct communication with Manjushri, who he relied on for answers regarding divisive issues surrounding Buddhism. Over time, Tsongkhapa eventually became disenchanted regarding certain practices that had become prevalent throughout Buddhism, and sought to reform Buddhist practice with these deficiencies in mind. This disenchantment was primarily a result of 2 observations regarding Buddhist practice in general. First, Tsongkhapa noticed that prominent monks in all traditions were leading lives of decadence. Convinced that luxuries are counterproductive as one attempts to remove themselves from the wheel of suffering, Tsongkhapa condemned these monks for living contrary to the basic ideas of Buddhism. He also thought the existing traditions lacked adequate focus on the importance of developing mental and physical discipline. These observations compelled Tsongkhapa to establish the Glooog Sect in 1409, advocating a return to strict adherence to original commandments. The Glooog Sect was established with the construction of Ganden Monastery. Ganden Monastery consisted of two colleges, Shartse and Jangse. Tsongkhapa relied on the new monastery to initiate reforms to traditional Buddhist practice. The Glooog Sect focused on the cultivation of philosophical tools to help students discern Buddhist teachings and divisive issues for themselves. Tsongkhapa's suggested reforms were well accepted, and the Glooog Sect expanded rapidly. At its peak, it consisted of 6 major schools. The Upper Tantric College and the Lower Tantric College each housed about 500 monks. The 4 remaining monastic universities, Ganden University, Sera University, Deprung University, and Tashi Lungpo University, each housed about 5,000 monks. For a prospective monk, education was a process of great discipline and commitment. The study of a new monk focused on memorization to cultivate strict monastic discipline. Monastic ethical discipline was conceived as a necessary and vital prerequisite for Buddhist meditation and practice. As a result of this focus on discipline, you will not find a master of the Glooog tradition who has not undergone a rigorous education. Also rejected through this structure is the notion of a spontaneous enlightenment, since such a phenomenon implies the impossibility of great Buddhist understanding, absence from an expansive Buddhist education. The curriculum, more specifically, broke down into studies of the 5 major topics: the perfection of wisdom, the philosophy of the middle way, valid cognition, phenomenology, and monastic discipline. These topics were studied through the dialectical method, through the use of both Indian texts as well as Indian and Tibetan discourses regarding these traditional sutras. Upon completion of his or her studies, a feat which generally took between 15 and 20 years, a student earned a geishe. A geishe is essentially a doctorate of Buddhist philosophy and is further distinguished by 3 levels of mastery. Notably absent from the curriculum of a Glooog education is any study of meditative or tantric practice. Geshe Jampa Kedup, a lama who studied in the Glooog tradition, conveyed that the Glooog tradition tends to reinforce the primacy of understanding of Buddhist concepts over the development of meditational skill. He said that his teachers did not teach tantric practice, but did permit students to study Tantra on their own time, if they desired. The reform efforts of Tsongkhapa eventually culminated in the founding of the Glooog Sect. The Glooog Sect became the most prominent sect of all Tibetan Buddhism, and still retains that distinction today. It is more commonly known as the Yellow Hat Sect, in response to the yellow hats that distinguish its members. While it remains disputable whether Tsongkhapa was actually the Buddhist master whose birth Padmasambhava had predicted, there is little debate regarding the significant impacts he had on the course of Buddhist studies.